Hi there, it's great to see you and I hope I find you well. I'm Jenny Kirk, welcoming you up here to Weir Yard, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about semaphore signals. And if you're getting a sense of deja vu, then, well, that is because I have done a video on this subject, but that was just about the fitting of those signals. And if you remember, when I did put in that Dapol servo actuated junction signal, I was left controlling it by little toggle switches underneath the layout, and it does work, but it's a little bit inflexible. And it got me wondering whether there was a way that I could integrate that signal into what the trains were actually doing, automating it, and even just being able to call it up on a DCC accessory and have it operate in unison with points elsewhere, so that the points and the junctions that that signal is protecting, they move and change and the signal follows suit. I thought that would be a really great way of doing it. Well, Train Tech at Gagemaster have come to the rescue with their SC400 servo signal controller unit and the accompanying Sensor Plus modules, which allow the unit to be triggered by the passage of trains in blocks on your layout, so it can be completely fully automated. And for those people who go, DCC, oh no, get that out of here, don't worry, it works perfectly well on DC as well. Using a smooth power supply, you can actually set it up and use it and enjoy all of these benefits using this module, and you don't have to go anywhere near the devil's own DCC. So come with me, and with thanks to Train Tech for sending over these modules for review, let's delve into the world of getting our semaphore signals from Dapol to work absolutely perfectly on our layout, integrated with the passage of the trains and with what the points are doing. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCC decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabrique.co.uk. Additional support comes from
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest logo.
Don't forget that any of the products that you see in today's video can be found at the link down below, and they are available in many good model shops up and down the country, so do support your local retailer as well. Also, please tickle that like button and share this video, and if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel, and you can also head on over to Patreon to help support the channel to keep making the videos that you want to see. So I'm actually quite excited about this. It's not often I get really worked up by electronics, but I love the fact that this module promises to take that Dapol servo controlled signal and just make it work for what I want without me having to always go over to that corner of the layout, fumble underneath the fascia and mess about with a couple of switches. So let's see, do the Train Tech modules live up to expectations, and can they really bring alive those Dapol servo controlled signals? Come with me, let's find out. Ever since I did the video on the Dapol servo controlled signals, one of the things that's kind of bugged me is how to operate them on DCC. Now, I'd been using them powered from a set of old Hornby 00 switches, but that did require user interaction and the switches weren't in a convenient location. And that's why this product that's been sent over from Train Tech, along with the Sensor Plus to match up with it, is actually something that has really interested me. Now, if you're wondering what this is, well, I'm going to explain that. It's essentially a DCC accessory controller specifically for the Dapol servo control signals. Now, they do a different product, which is for the older style ones where you essentially pressed a button and it just moved to the opposite aspect. these are the ones where you can control the aspect, and this actually makes it really quite useful for matching up with things like your points. If you've got a route set, and it would be really useful to make sure that the semaphore signal is set to actually mimic what that route is, so that everything all works together, then this is what you need. It's SC400, and this gives you two separate channels, which is perfect if you've got the junction signals, because you will need one channel per servo motor, so you can't just connect both of these to one channel, because that would be a little bit too power hungry for this. But if you want both arms to actually operate together, so only one side is showing clear when the other side is showing danger and vice versa, then you can connect them both up to each of the channels, so one on each channel, but set each channel to the same address. So when you press the switch or pull the lever, they will both change. And what I really like about this, and you'll see later on in the video, is that actually they don't just both change at the same time. The accessory controller here will actually set one and then the other, so it mimics what the signalman would be doing in the box when they pull one lever at a time. Now, the other item that they've sent over is this GT10 Track Sensor Plus, and if you're thinking it looks a little bit like the base of the colour light signals that we did a review on a little while ago, then you'd be right. And this is something that's really quite clever, that Train Tech use a standard base with all the electronics on, and it can be used actually to control far more than just those signals. So we've still got the track sensor, which detects when a train goes past, and you'll also note we've got these three terminals here, just like we used in that color light signal video. But we're going to be using this to be able to also trigger this to change from the passing of a train. Now, the beauty of all of this, if you're thinking, well, I don't do DCC, nothing here for me, both of these are also usable on a DC supply, and with that all you need is a 12 to 16 volts DC, and it must be a smoothed supply. You can't just use any old 12 volt supply that you have lying around. It's got to be a smooth supply to avoid any damage. But then this will have all the power it needs, and it just awaits a trigger from something like the Track Sensor Plus, or indeed a switch, just to enable those servo signals to change. And this is particularly good if you want to have the signal react to trains passing through. Now, it also means that with the aid of this Sensor Plus device, you can actually mix and match this in with the color light signals. And in that video I showed you how to create the blocks by having multiple signals, one after the other, and they would react automatically as the train went through. They were three aspect signals, so we got that yellow aspect when the train had passed the next signal, so essentially telling the preceding train that it needs to expect to stop at the next signal. So with the aid of this and this, we can turn those Dapol signals into an extension of that system. Now, I've gone ahead and I've created a little test rig, so essentially just a spare piece of, this is Pico Streamline Code 100, and I've already got out of the box the track sensor, and I'm going to show you, just like we did with the color light signals, how to fix this to this track. Now, you don't have to do that. You can wire it up the same way that you would through DC, and I'll just show you these two holes here. You just solder a power supply to those, and then it's good to go, either being added to an existing layout, maybe where you can't get it into the track, or if you're running a DC layout, then that's for the smooth 12 to 16 volts, and you just carefully cut these off at the dotted line to remove these prongs. But as I'm going to be testing this on DCC, it's all pretty simple. I'm just going to feed that in through the webbing, And what we'll then need to do is just solder these in place. And for doing this, I just use some no clean flux, and I've also got some solder as well. So with the no clean flux, I'm just going to put a little bit just on the pad, keep it away from the sensors and the electronics, and I'm just going to make sure that all of this is how we want it. And I'm just going to actually, I've just noticed that I've got the power switched on, so I'm just going to turn that off. There is a little red LED in there which just shows you when it's receiving power, and that will change as things pass over. You can cover that up if you've got it somewhere prominent on your layout, but it's just an internal diagnostic. But I've turned the power off to this now, so we don't run the risk of shorting anything, and certainly when you're soldering to electronics, it's probably a great idea just to make sure that the power's off, just so you don't risk any kind of damage. So I'm just going to apply some solder to the iron, and then what I'm actually going to do is just carefully tin that, and a little bit more. And the flux makes sure that that solder flows underneath, and we've now got a nice positive connection. So that's now in place. If I turn the power back on, you can then see that we've got that red diagnostic LED coming on, and even when I wiggle this about, we've got a really good connection. And this should change state. You can see it's got brighter there as the contacts detect the passage of my finger, which would be just the same as if it was detecting the passage of a train. Right, I'm just going to turn that off now, and we're going to move on to the Semaphore signal controller, the SC400. So I've fixed down the accessory control there, and I'll just move my solder out of the way, and I'm going to show you the circuit diagram. Now, if you're worried about any complexity, anything that you're not quite sure about, then rest assured that all these items do come with some very comprehensive instructions, which also show you how to wire it up, and all the terminals are marked up to tell you which goes where. And we've also got this learn button, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that as we go on in the video. So this is shown with the single arm versions, and I should point out that these work just as well with the O gauge and the N gauge signals, as long as they're servo controlled, just the same as with the double O. So what we're going to do now, just double check we do have the power switched off. So I'm going to put the power in. So we've got two terminals over here, and it's just simply a case of taking power, in our case, off the track bus. But if you were using DC, then this would be a smoothed 12 to 16 volt feed, or indeed you could take it off your accessory bus as well, if you're wishing to keep that entirely separate from what's going on the track. So we've got the power into there, and just test all is well, and you can see we've now got our little light which has come on just to let us know that all is well. Again, I'm going to just turn that off for safety as we go ahead and wire in the rest of what we need. Now at the moment, nothing's going to happen as I run my finger over this because they're not connected together. With the Sensor Plus, you also get a length of this single core wire, and it's exactly the same as what we used in the video with the colour light signals. Rather than cutting this wire, I'm just going to leave it all looped together. Just going to make sure that we've got a clean end there. And it's the central of these is effectively should be considered as the trigger to whatever accessory you want to be triggered by the passing of a train. So these can also be used with the automatic level crossings, or even if you wanted LEDs on your panel just to tell you where a train is. So this is just a push fit down into there, and the other end of this we are going to go to TS1. There's also TS2. I'll just hold that up so you can see that quite clearly. TS1, trigger switch 1, TS2, trigger switch 2. They're for the two different channels. So I'm going to wire this round into trigger switch 1, and then at this point what that will then mean is that we're in a situation where this can now be automatically triggered from the track. And these are all screw terminals, so we don't have to worry about the evils of soldering. So now I come to connect the signal in. Now this is where things get a little bit difficult, because my signal is built into my layout a bit of a distance over there. So I've got some very long extension wires, and that's perfectly okay. You don't need to mount this right by the signal. You can use extension wires if you so wish. But first of all, we've got the black and the red going to the signals. If you're using both channels, then you just double them up. So both of the blacks, one for each signal, go together into the black terminal. Both the reds together into the red terminal. So first of all, let's get that done now. We've got the reds on the end of this. And so both of the blacks come back, and these just go into that terminal. Let's just make sure we've got a good connection. Yes, we have. Let's just move those wires over there. Now, I'm just using both the same colour because that's what I had to hand, but you can obviously keep to the colour code. Now, the signal itself is at the other end of this wire, and with this, we've got the brown, yellow and orange wires from the signal, and these go back to the signal 1 here, and I'm just going to carefully put the appropriate ones in each. Again, perfectly okay to use extension wires. Final wire, and they're going off to the signal. We've got everything wired up, and in its present state we can just go ahead and use this. We don't need to program anything. So turn the power back on. We've got our little LED lights there and there. As it stands, we're only going to get a trigger in one direction on this. So what we need to do, if you want the signal to return to its previous state, we're going to need a second one of these, and then we're going to link across to enable the train to trigger the signal on approach, and then as it leaves the section it will trigger the signal a second time to then return to its original state. I've gone ahead and added in the second sensor signal soldered to the track. You can see the diagnostic LEDs are lit up. We've got a connecting wire which runs from one sensor to the next. You'll see how that is wired into this triple terminal block, and then we've got our feed back to the SC400 from the center of the first of the sensors. So what happens now when we've got our test item, and that will then trigger the signal. The signal changes state as the train passes through, and then eventually exits the block. That then triggers the signal to return to its original state. Once again, we have the trigger for the signal on the approach of the train, and then as it passes through the block, the next sensor triggers the signal to return to its original state. And that is a really simple setup for full automation on both DC and DCC, and it just gets the job done. You don't have to worry about any extra wiring. If you want to mount this right by the signal, you can use the wires on the signal itself direct into this. It's nice, it's neat. On DCC, it can all be powered from either the track or the accessory bus, and all in, it's really simple to set up. But if you want to have control of your signal completely independent to any of these, maybe you want to have it so that it is changed with a point, so if it's protecting a junction, it would make sense, rather than using these sensors, to simply just have this on the same DCC accessory ID as the point that it's protecting, set up so that the signal returns to danger when the route is not clear, and only clearing when the point is set for that route. For this, we need to put the accessory decoder into learn mode. So we press that learn button once, and you can see that that little LED is just now blinking. We now send the accessory command that we want it to be on, and you can see there that it's now stopped blinking. It has now learned that accessory command, and we can now change the signal using that particular accessory command, either sent from the handset, or if, like me, you use these cobalt levers, then you can send with one of those, and everything just works as it should. If you want to program the second channel, say we've got the second signal plugged into that channel, then it's simply a case of pressing this button twice, and you can see that we've now got a blinking light which is blinking twice, and we can then send the correct accessory address that we want it to be on, stops blinking, and now channel 2 is set up to react to that DCC address. It really is quite simple. If you find that the signal operates the opposite way round to what's expected, then you can change over this wire and this wire, and then you will find that the signal operates the other way, and that's a great way of getting it to align with what, say, the point is doing. All in all, it's a great answer to controlling the Dapol servo signal and integrating it either with automation to your layout, or indeed into your DCC accessory system, and just makes the wiring really easy. And with the imminent release of the LMS signals with the brackets and the junctions, which all work on the servo control, the potential for these is only growing, and I'd like to thank Train Tech for sending these over so that we can do this run through on the channel and show you just how easy these are to set up. I hope you really enjoyed today's video, and more importantly found it informative. And certainly when I've been using these modules, I really like those Sensor Plus units because they allow the signal to actually be used in real time with the passage of the trains without user input. And I'm a bit lazy when it comes to running trains. I like things to just happen. I'm not really one for fiddling about at the controls. I like to sit in the middle and this model world just does its thing, and they really make that happen. And if you want to change the signals and accompanying the points, then you can do that as we showed in the video. Just one pull of the lever and everything just does what it's supposed to. And it's really transformed these Dapol servo operated signals into something incredibly useful. But those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear from you in the comments section down below. Have you used any of these modules, either the sensor modules or the servo signal control modules? Certainly those sensor modules can be used to trigger so many other accessories. Really, it's just down to your imagination what you make use of them for, and I'd love to hear from you if you've got an innovative install, or if you've done something particularly that you're proud of. Do please share that with me in the comments section down down below. And don't forget that you can find any of the products used today at the link down below at Train Tech from Gagemaster, but they're also stocked widely in a great many local model shops, so do support your local retailer as well. And certainly if they don't have them in stock, they will be able to order them in for you. Just ask. Also, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and you can also head on over to Patreon to help support the channel to keep making the videos that you want to see. We've also got the full merch store for all of the great designs that you know and love, like Gronk It Up, one of our most popular. We've also got Terrier Fest and the perennial classics of Billy's replacement speakers. And there's still one or two of the Monday Club wagons still available from Rails of Sheffield. We've got a link for them as well in the description box down below. But do hurry, they are down to single digits when I last checked. But until next time, this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying you take great care of yourself. Happy modelling. Bye for now. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCC decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabrique.co.uk. Additional support is provided by...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest logo.
I'd like to send out a huge thanks to everybody who supports me on Patreon, but a special thanks go out to Anthony Kidson, Offshore Allen, Michael Lockie, Helen Sink, Gary Lewis, David Quinn, Sparky107107, George Botterini, Chris Moss, Robert Steers, Sam Yates, Dale Williams, John N from NC, NYMRish, Jonathan Foster, Peter, Clifford Ison, Larry W. Grant, NI Railways 4000 class, Ian Coulson, Alan Dickerson, Eddie Popper, Karen Nichol, Medwin Williams, Crossways Point Junction, 3B Rail, Jennifer Horton, Michael Rose, Trains with Nick, and Simon Snow. Thank you. Without you guys, I couldn't do this.